who I am. I have props. If you know me, you might know me for this. That's one thing I do. And then here, you might know this. Another thing that I do. Stack Overflow. Hopefully you've heard of that. And then what we're here to talk about today is Discourse. This guy. I'm sure get it the right way. But yeah. So thanks for having me. I just want to talk a little bit about Discourse, like what the goals are and why we started the project and what we're here for. There's a lot of information at Discourse.org about the project, its goals, and why we do what we do. But largely, what happened to me at Stack Overflow and Stack Exchange was that we built a Q&A engine. If you use Stack Overflow or use Stack Exchange, you'll see that you're asking questions and you're getting answers. And that works really well for a lot of topics, but it doesn't work well for topics where a lot of the glue is social interaction, where you're not really there to get an answer. You're there to be in the company of other people, and you're there to socialize. And that's something that the Stack Exchange engine does very, very badly. It's great if you want to get an answer, but it's not so great if you're trying to create a social community of people that know each other, of people that like each other, of people that get along together and talk about things. So that was really the impetus for Discourse, was to say, how can I create an engine that lets me reach out and build not a school, where Stack Exchange is kind of like a school where you're learning things and you're in a classroom, kind of like what we're doing right now. So one person is talking to you, right? You're not talking amongst yourselves. You're listening to me speak. And that's a lot more analogous to what Stack Overflow is. There's one person talking, it's the person asking the question, and then people take turns trying to answer the question by posting answers. But there's no communication between the people giving the answers. And with Discourse, what we're trying to do is build an engine where it reaches much more of the web. It's not a school, because if you look at your own neighborhood where I'm giving this presentation, where you guys are, how many schools are there? If you looked out on the street, how many schools are on that street? And the answer might be one, or there might be a school maybe 5 miles from there. But there's many, many more places for people to socially interact, like bars, restaurants, places for people to have social interactions. And that's more of what Discourse is. Discourse is more of a clubhouse, a bar, a restaurant, a place where you would go to meet other people, hang out, and socialize. And there's a lot more of this on the web than there is schools. Now, schools are very, very important, but they don't really occupy a huge slice of the web. So with Discourse, we're trying to build something that touches much more of the web. And I mean that on multiple levels, because first of all, it's open source. So you can actually take Discourse, the entire source code, and do with it whatever you want, subject to the GPL, of course. We never open source Stack Exchange or Stack Overflow. I believe that if we had, it wouldn't have been a successful project for a variety of reasons, one of which is that it's a school. It takes a certain amount of discipline to get Stack Overflow and Stack Exchange to work. Whereas Discourse is a much more flexible engine, because the only thing you need to do to have a conversation on Discourse is to be social. There's no other rule other than don't post anything illegal. Whereas on Stack Exchange, we would say don't post anything that's not useful to other people, because you're in a classroom, and if you're going to speak up in a classroom, you need to say something that the other students can learn from. And if they can't learn from it, then it's hurting the mission. But there's no requirement on Discourse that everybody be learning all the time. The only requirement is that you be nice to each other, you have empathy for the other people in the room, and you're not yelling at people. So we spend a lot of time on Discourse thinking about, how do you build software that encourages people to interact in a way where they're not yelling at each other? or fighting each other, even worse, right? So there's all kinds of interesting tools and reminders to sort of let the community moderate itself and push out people that are, trolls, people that are spammers, people that are extremely negative all the time, are very harmful to communities. So Discourse is designed with the same sort of principles we had at Stack Overflow and Stack Exchange, which is we want the community to grow with the community. The only sorts of governance that really works on communities is the kind where you empower the community to lead itself. So that's something that's really badly lacking in virtually every forum software, along with many, many other features. But we believe deeply in this stuff, that the community should be in charge of the community. And one evidence of that is that Discourse is indeed open source. So when you set up a Discourse community, you own it in every meaningful sense of the word. You own the data, you own the code, subject to GPL. There's nothing we as a company or anyone can do to take that away from you. And it belongs to you. When you set up a Discourse community, you're not in Facebook's house. You're not in Twitter's house. You're not in someone else's house. You're in your own house that you built for your community. And you can set the rules up exactly the way you want. The only thing Discourse tries to help you do is build a community where people are civil to each other. The actual name of the company that builds Discourse is Civilized Discourse Construction Kit Incorporated. It's kind of a kind of a jokey reference to some early computer software called Pinball Construction Set by Bill Budge. And what I was thinking is that we're trying to build a kit that when you open it up, what you get is a community where people are actually nice to each other. And the software tries to help you do that to some degree, because that's what makes communities sustainable, is that A, they have some sort of governance from within the community, like a form of government within the software that the community can form. And then number two, that this is a place where you go and you feel safe. It's clean, it's well lit, and people are being nice to each other. When you come in, people say hello. You sit down at a table, they'll speak to you, they'll introduce themselves. There are these nice social interactions that are necessary, just like at a really good dinner party. If you sit down at a dinner party and everybody's screaming at each other, that's kind of what the web is in a lot of ways. It's coming into a dinner party where everyone is screaming at each other, and you're thinking, what am I getting myself into here, right? Like, what kind of person goes into a dinner party full of people fighting and screaming and sits down at the table and says, yes, this is my kind of place. So with Discourse, we try to really encourage the community to understand that whatever the rules are in your community, that's up to you. But you have to actually care about each other to some degree, and you have to listen to each other. And you have to read what other people are saying, not just talk your talking points, but actually listen as much as you talk, if not more. And that's the basis for sustainable community. So, that's all I have to say. Thank you very much for putting on this conference. Thank you for listening to me here in California, all the way there to Spain. I really appreciate you guys setting this up. I hope you enjoy the conference. If there's any way our team can help, the standard resources apply. Discourse.org, the main website, meta.discourse, and there are a bunch of Discourse forums out there that you can look at, like live communities, to get a sense of, again, if you walked into a party that was a Discourse forum, how would it make you feel? How do you feel going into that party? I'm really interested in reactions like that for the existing communities that are out there. And one you guys might want to take a look at that's interesting is GitHub just launched this editor called Atom. And it's something that's sort of hybrid open source, closed source. But if you go to atom.io, there's a discussion link at the bottom, and that's a Discourse forum. And I'm watching that closely to think about, what kind of interactions am I seeing there? And, I encourage you to do the same. If you're thinking about deploying Discourse, using Discourse, look at the communities that are out there and help us think about, how can the software make these communities better? because that's what we're about. We're in the business of not building forum software, but building communities of people that come together. And I think that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff.